So today's video is a bit more of a serious topic and something that's probably should have been covered and provided with by camera companies for years now. At the making of this video, it is late 2021. I mean, we have self-driving cars at this point. Come on now. And by the time of this video, I wanted to address this as well. I'm a little bit late to the story, but and this is an occurrence that happens to many people in this world, unfortunately, many photographers and creatives. But Tony and Chelsea Northup recently covered a fellow photographer and friend of theirs, Louis Chan, who got robbed at gunpoint. And there's a very graphic video about it, etc. I'm not going to post that, etc. But I'm going to post Tony and Chelsea's video down in the link below if you want a little bit more further context. But a lot of people, and they've talked about it over the years, but kind of anti-theft technology in cameras. Once again, it is 2021, and there is still not a secure way to track or secure your camera. I mean, the phones now, Face ID, Thumb ID, Fingerprint ID, two-factor authentication, etc. There are a ton of options to recover your phone, but nothing for even more expensive cameras, lenses, etc. And I just think this is an important topic because currently, none of the companies do anything. It's actually rather sad and disturbing. That, like I said, we're in 2021 and this technology does not exist for, our expensive gear. And I know one of the first things when something gets stolen is, well, it should have been safer or something like that. There are two extremes. The one extreme we're talking about is a horrific and graphic event that was portrayed. So there's a difference between negligence on your own accord and getting something stolen, which of course still isn't right, and to an extreme of like getting robbed at gunpoint and stuff like that. But I really just want to cover the anti-theft part and maybe give some suggestions on, maybe something out there into the void that, we scream in here on YouTube. But as photographers and creatives, we aren't protected. We do our best, or you try and do your best to go to an event, a shoot, a wedding, and try and set up like a base camp somewhere that's safe, that's out of the way, maybe not many people know where you're going, etc. But it is very difficult to do that. It's not 100% reliable. Once again, there are several things you could do to make yourself a little bit less like a target per se. Take the magnet of your company off your car saying you're a photographer. That's an easy thing to do. But once again, this is just little mitigated stuff compared to the big stuff where, armed robbery and really bad theft and stuff like that. Going to venues and knowing where security cameras are and placing your gear. Now, once again, it might not prevent your stuff from being stolen, but you can have some kind of proof, some kind of evidence, some kind of something. Then that way maybe you can use for insurance and stuff like that. We're going to talk about insurance too. And insurance definitely is a huge thing, especially because our cameras aren't anti-theft proof, or at least to limit or mitigate any kind of bad person walking away with our gear. One of the biggest things you can get is gear insurance. Now, how you get it, who you go with, that's a whole other type of video and everything like that. But for a while, before I stopped really like shooting like professionally and went a little bit more chill, I had gear insurance through PPA. They covered up to $15,000 worth of gear, etc. I don't know if that's changed now. That was like 2 or 3 years ago when I kind of dropped that. So there are easy and affordable ways to get insurance for your gear. So that way, if something happens, you are covered. And even sometimes it falls under your home insurance or your homeowner's insurance or whatever. That's more legal talk and stuff like that. But you could do your best to, once again, ensure that you are safe and insured in case something really, really bad happens. And once again, it's, people, tourists getting their camera straps knifed off, by locals or and stuff like that. It could be any kind of thing. But as we know from Tony and Chelsea's story, and unfortunately what happened to Louis Chan, he was unfortunately robbed at gunpoint, and these horrifically unethical piece of shit people, stole his gear. So what can companies do? Now, I'm not an engineer. If I did, I wouldn't have credit card debt with Pokemon stuff, etc., student loans, blah, blah, blah. We won't get into, 30-year-old men opening Pokemon cards. But in general, what can we suggest? What can these companies do? Because I think it also falls onto these camera manufacturers to a point too. You know, you can register your camera with serial number, proof of purchase, etc. for a warranty. But the fact that there's no real database out there that you can check to see if, you know, hey, is this stolen? Is this verified? Is it authentic? Is a joke, in my opinion. I would love to be able to go onto Fuji or Sony site and say, hey, maybe, this got stolen and it has this. And then when I go to a camera store or a pawn shop or whoever the buyer does, they can look that up and see this is flagged stolen by the serial number, etc. So there are a ton of little options. So I just have a couple, and I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below too. But so besides trying to be safe for yourself, there's not much else you could do. If someone's coming at you, they're going to come at you, and just it's not worth risking your self-harm for your camera. You know, it sucks. Hopefully you have insurance. But what can we do? So as we know, there are like Apple AirTag type devices. I forget, it was like a square tile. I forget, there was another thing from a couple years ago that was very popular. But the problem is that's an external device. If someone steals your bag, that's only as good as until they ditch the bag or something like that. But that is something you could do. But maybe if we kind of have some homing system built into the camera, there's a lot of Bluetooth technology, wireless technology, etc. And maybe that's just something that could be built in, something like an AirTag or something like that. But not even going that far, even as well, maybe a simple passcode on your, phones have them. Computers, websites have them, but our cameras don't. So they're easily accessible. Now, mind you, does that still get your camera stolen? Of course, but it kind of makes the camera useless. And if someone's trying to sell something on Craigslist or something like that, and the person goes to test it, they're not able to get into it. So that kind of diverts sales. And once again, we're kind of just limiting, because you're not going to be able to stop, theft. It's been around forever, unfortunately, and people are still pieces of shit. So you can't stop that, but we could try and limit that. So with something like that, maybe it's something simple as a passcode. But how about some kind of a key for your camera? Some kind of little device, like a little mini USB, little something that's a key for your camera, If it's stolen, they could be useful, because if you, for example, you have the key out, the camera's locked up and it's useless. Something like that. I don't really know how that would work 100%, but just little examples for stuff like that. Once again, I really kind of like the database ideal, mainly because, like, even if you check, I'm into, trading cards, sports cards, Pokemon cards, etc. But you have verification grading services like PSA and CGC, etc., where you could go and check up a number, so basically a serial number, and to see if a card's authentic or not. So that you can even go a little bit in deeper with the whole database route and make it very, very simple to see if something's stolen, if it's authentic, etc. And we could kind of go from there. Another form I heard Tony and Chelsea say was, like fingerprint technology. Hey, go in the back of your camera using your fingerprint, just like you kind of do phones and Android and stuff like that, to open it up as well, the pixels and everything. So there are options out there. Camera companies just really need to implement them and to start taking this stuff seriously, because this stuff isn't cheap. Once again, you can mitigate as much as you can, taking the personal branding off the car so you're not a target, trying to be safer in a venue, knowing where to stage stuff, and just being on track of your gear, having an assistant or someone keeping a look over your gear as day goes on. And then if something does happen, having insurance to cover yourself and your personal belongings with stuff like that, be it liability or actual gear insurance, etc. Once again, that's a whole different video, but anti-theft technology needs to happen in cameras, and it's actually a bit silly that it's not, once again, in 2021. But I want to know your thoughts and your comments down below. What are some things you could do to mitigate kind of your exposure to that and to the extreme, and maybe some of your thoughts on how companies and what they can do, what kind of features or dongles or technology do you think that they can put for anti-theft? I would love to see you guys and girls' thoughts down in the comments below. But I also want to put a change.org petition that Tony and Chelsea started with the whole Louis Chan thing to call upon these camera companies to do that. I don't do a lot of the change.org stuff unless I really, really feel passionate about something. And of course, fellow creatives, photographers, videographers, etc. It's a pretty important thing. Once again, I think it's absolutely ridiculous and ludicrous that this technology is not in cameras that you are paying a boatload of money for. Check the links down below. Check out Tony and Chelsea's main story. I'm sure a lot of you kind of already have, as well as, some of the articles that already came out. And check the change.org petition, just to be like, yo, camera companies, do something. You demand a lot of money from us. Help us out, type of thing. And let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on what camera companies could do. But this stuff is serious, serious business, unfortunately.